evil, mad, evil anti-Semite. Your judgment day will come. One of my most recent messages, again anonymous and this time thrown into the garbage bin, contained the accusation that my mother must have been Adolf Eichmann's daughter. Eichmann, of course, being the leading SS Nazi who sent so many hundreds of thousands of Jews to their murder in Auschwitz. My mother, Peggy, I should add, died in 1998 after a long battle with Parkinson's, but during the Second World War she was a radio repair operator in frontline RAF air bases in southern England under Nazi attack, repairing radios on Spitfires. So we ask a number of questions. What's been happening to us in the months since September the 11th, 2001? You know, we spent decades preaching to the Third World, to China, to the Soviet Union, to Black Africa, and of course to the Arabs, about the need for law, democracy, human rights, fair trials. But the moment our glittering, I always like to have these little Deus Ex Machina at these points to keep you awake, but the moment our glittering towers are struck, we tore up all those old lectures, imprisoned hundreds on suspicion, brought prisoners drugged and blindfolded to Guantanamo Bay, bombed the poorest country in the world, killed thousands of its citizens, and now we may be set to kill thousands more. I visited the home of a man called Ziad Jarrah in 2001. He was the Lebanese suicide pilot who came from a village in the Bekaa Valley of Lebanon. This was the pilot of the plane which crashed in Pennsylvania after those American passengers had so courageously stormed onto the flight deck. His parents were middle class, his mother a schoolteacher, his father a civil servant in the Lebanese government. By chance I even knew his uncle, who was a bank manager in a town called Shtura. The family desperately wanted to believe that their son was an innocent passenger on the plane. His father wept in front of us, but I discovered he did know the truth. His son had a girlfriend, a Turkish girl, who was to have met his parents the summer before to announce their engagement. In the end, she travelled alone to meet them, a very strange arrangement in Lebanon, because Jarrah suddenly announced that he was too busy with flight training here in the United States. I bet he was. His father told me he sent him $2,000 3 days before September 11th. And on the 10th, the day before the International Crimes Against Humanity, Ziad Jarrah rang his parents to thank them for the money. I suspect it was used to buy airline tickets. He had been to Afghanistan, it transpired, for 6 weeks. He had been non-political before. However, as a boy, he had been trapped in Beirut by the 1982 invasion, spending weeks under shell fire. Had this touched him, as it did so many others at the time? After all, the Lebanese Hezbollah were born in 1982. What are we to learn of the personal reasons for the crimes against humanity of September the 11th? Not much. The middle-class murderers left only one infantile statement. Their message was their deed. But it came from the Middle East. The message came from a land that has been deceived and mistreated and humiliated for decades. Was the world really changed forever? I don't think so. Perhaps America was changed. But why should the world be changed? In Israel's invasion of Lebanon, 17,500 people, almost all of them civilians, were killed in just 3 months. More than 5 times the death toll in the World Trade Center. Up to 20,000 Syrians were slaughtered in Hama by the Syrian army in February of 1982. Did the world change? No, not at all. No tears were shed. No candles were lit. No one here would even remember the dates. A few perhaps, but not many. There were no memorial services. And the world did not change. I heard the US Secretary of State, Colin Powell, telling us from Louisburg University in the autumn of 2001, never again can we look up into the pale blue sky and see an airliner and think the same way about it. I think this is absolute rubbish. I sit on my balcony in Beirut and see endless airplanes flying over in the autumn sky, and they land at Beirut Airport. And I fly on a lot more airplanes than Secretary Powell, and they land at my destination. I think, you know, without in any way belittling the horror and the evil, yes, it was evil, of that terrible day, I do sometimes wonder whether America's concentration on that one day, to the point where we cannot discuss the whys, isn't becoming a form of dangerous self-absorption. Can we journalists then ignore the abuse and the lobby groups and the attempt to soft-pedal our reporting about the Middle East? White House spokesman Ari Fleischer's remark last October that, I quote, "The press is asking a lot of questions that I suspect the American people would prefer not to be asked or answered," carried its own ominous implications. And when the head of CNN instructed his reporters in the autumn of 2001 not to say too much about the hundreds, indeed the thousands, of Afghan civilian casualties of American bombing because this might provide propaganda for the Taliban, it was, I think, the most shameful comment made by a Western news head in recent times. Ladies and gentlemen, at a time when your country, or the country of most of you, looks as if it's about to go to war, for reasons that I believe, and I think a lot of you suspect, are not true ones, I'd like to make an appeal. Let's stop saying that September the 11th, 2001 changed the world. Let's not say disputed when we mean occupied, neighbourhood when we mean colony, ethnic cleansing when we mean genocide. Let's always ask the why questions. And let's do what the Americans used to tell their journalists to do and should do at this critical time. Let's tell it how it is. Thank you for your patience.